there, Lisa here. We have about 4 weeks left in Spain before we head to Zagreb, Croatia. Yeah, for this week's video, I'm going to be talking about shoes. And I'm going to offer you some tips on how to downsize your shoe collection. It's very similar to the video I did 2 weeks ago where I talked about how to downsize your wardrobe. Just things you need to consider, maybe some brands you want to look at, and then I'll share with you the shoes that I have in my collection. If you're new to this channel, I started my minimalism journey at the end of 2014. This was after my first trip abroad as an adult. Visiting Spain completely blew my mind, and so when I came back, I decided that I was going to jump headfirst into minimalism, quit my job, and then I would have a year to completely downsize my life before I left the States to go travel nomadically, and first stop was Glasgow. In that year, I sold everything, got rid of all of the stuff that I owned, my car, all of my clothes, everything I had. It was a long process, over that year to minimize my wardrobe, my shoes, everything, to where I could get everything to fit into one bag. So this November, it will be 3 years since I started my minimalism journey. When I left for the UK, I only had one pair of shoes, a pair of boots, and right now I have 3 pairs of shoes. So let me run through those first. Oh, and I have done another video just on minimalist shoes. My shoes have changed since that video. I swapped out a pair. Now, so I won't go into too much detail with these shoes, so you can check that video out, and I'll post the link in the video description down below. But I have 3 pairs of shoes with me. I have this pair of Zero Shoes sandals. I had another pair of Merrells, but they just didn't work out for me. So this pair is much nicer. I got them from Corte Inglés. Good all-purpose shoe, good tread. And then this is another pair, all-purpose pair of vegan Doc Martens. And so I'll be wearing these in the winter. It's just far too hot right now to be wearing these. So those are the only shoes I have right now, and that's plenty for me. I could get rid of the vegan Doc Martens, but I bought them new when I was in Scotland, and they're excellent for the winter and for in the rain. So I'm going to keep them because we will be spending winter in Serbia, so I need something to keep my feet warm. Before I became a minimalist, I had a massive shoe collection. Like, I had this hanging organizer that you would put over the door, and it had pockets to put shoes in. I had bins full of shoes, and I had shoes out on display at all times. This collection, it was mostly cheap shoes from Target. I had lots of flats, I had some heels, I had boots in every different color. Basically shoes for every occasion and like every outfit imaginable, I had shoes for it. I just like to have different shoes. In the same way that I had lots of clothes, I just thought that was normal and that everyone had shoes like that. And for the most part, most of the people I knew did have a shoe collection like that. But when I started, my minimalism journey, I had to ask myself, okay, wait a second, like out of all of these shoes that I have, dozens of shoes, how many of them do I actually wear day to day? And it wasn't that many, and so I basically was collecting these shoes for situations where, like, just in case I'd wear this one specific outfit, I would have a pair of shoes to match. So from that point when I started my minimalism journey to now, I've decided that 3 pairs of shoes is plenty for me. If you want to downsize your shoe collection, you might not be able to get it to just 3 pairs. It'll depend on, where you're living, the weather you have to endure, and your work situation. But I am hoping to offer you some tips that'll help you minimize your collection. So to downsize your shoe collection, you need to evaluate what shoes you have currently. You need to ask yourself, how many pairs of shoes do you have? Go count them, and then figure out how many pairs do you actually wear regularly. And then you have to 100% commit to not buying any more shoes if you are serious about downsizing your shoe collection. And that can be tricky if you're used to just, shopping. If that's a habit of yours or a hobby, you have to just commit to not buying any more shoes, because if you keep buying shoes, you're never going to get anywhere with minimizing your collection. And so determining how many shoes you should end up with when you're minimizing your shoe collection, you need to figure out how many pairs do you actually need. And to do this, you have to see what situations are going to come up when you're going to need a different pair of shoes. Depending on your job, you might need a special pair of shoes just for that. I was working as a pastry chef, so I had to have special, like, closed-toed, non-slip shoes for the kitchen. Maybe you could have 2 pairs of shoes for work. And then I would say you would need a good all-purpose shoe, all-purpose / casual shoe to wear when you're doing errands, things like that, walking around town. Possibly you would need a shoe for more fancy occasions. It just kind of depends on how often you're going out. For me, I don't have that issue because I just don't go out or do anything fancy like that. If you do, you might need a pair of shoes for that. With those categories, that's basically 3 or 4 different pairs of shoes that you could have. Now these are just suggestions. Not everyone's going to be able to get it down to 3 or 4 pairs, but just some suggestions to help you downsize your collection. Another thing you have to consider when figuring out how many shoes you want in your collection or that you need, it's the weather. You know, if you live in Scotland, you definitely need boots or something waterproof like that. If you live in a warm climate and you don't plan on visiting a place like Scotland, you can probably get by just with sandals. So it just depends on where you live, the weather there, and like how often do you plan on traveling to different climates. I know for some minimalists, they can survive just with these because they live in a warm climate, and that's great, but someone like me who travels, I need to have shoes to cover all different climates. When you're downsizing your shoe collection to make it more streamlined, only use the shoes you currently own. Don't run out and buy a new pair of Zero shoes because they're minimalist sandals or whatever. Just use the shoes you already have. Don't buy new shoes just to make it more minimalist, if that makes sense. And so the shoes you keep in your collection, they need to be comfortable so you can wear them for long periods of time without your feet hurting. They need to be practical and functional. You have to actually be able to wear these shoes and walk around in them and live in them. Something like high heels, like I wouldn't recommend keeping just like 4 pairs of high heels or something like that, especially if you don't like wearing them to begin with. So just shoes you're actually going to use on a regular basis. They need to be versatile so you can wear them in different situations. If you're only going to use 3 or 4 pairs of shoes, they need to be able to match different outfits, and they need to have like a timeless style that they'll match with many different things and that they'll be in style for years to come, because I would hope that your shoes would last you several years. You don't want it to be too flashy or too specific of a color. Just keep it as general as possible. And then the most important thing is that you need to like these shoes. For the longest time, I would buy shoes because I thought that's what I should be wearing, especially like with high heels and things like that with certain outfits. You know, you have to figure out, do you actually like wearing those shoes? And if you don't, just get rid of them. Only keep the shoes you genuinely like. That being said, if you do like high heels and you wear them regularly, then keep them, keep a pair. And then other things to consider when you're narrowing down your collection is the color scheme. Just like when downsizing your wardrobe, is there a color scheme to your shoes? I would say that it's best to stick to neutral colors like black, grays, because it'll match with more things. And to me, black, it's easier to dress those shoes up if you need to. And so if you're getting rid of like 80% of your shoe collection, you're gonna have all these shoes, what do you do with them? I recommend selling them on eBay if you can. I sold lots of my shoes on eBay. You don't need the original box or anything. You can donate them to thrift shops. You can sell them through Facebook buy and sell groups. And then, you know, there is going to be a time where you will have to buy a new pair of shoes or bring in another pair into your collection. I recommend checking secondhand if you can. If you can find a good pair of shoes at a thrift shop and they work for you, then I would buy those first. Research online. With all of the shoes that I have, I researched a lot before I decided to buy these pairs of shoes. They need to last me a long time. They have to be comfortable and they have to be vegan, obviously. They need to just match with everything in my wardrobe. And quality shoes will last a lot longer than cheap shoes from Target. I have had some cheap shoes last me for quite some time, but that's just a rare case. So if you can, spend a little more money and get something quality so it lasts you longer. Better for the environment, it's less waste. You know, the shoes I wear, they have to be vegan. And so you might be wondering, well, what makes shoes non-vegan? But the most obvious thing is that some shoes are made out of leather. Doc Martens, the non-vegan ones, are made out of leather. You can also have wool, fur, sometimes in shoes, and then glues are made from rendered animal products. I don't really know how they make it, but it's disgusting. But anyways, so vegan shoes are made with synthetic materials, like this is fake leather. It doesn't necessarily mean that vegan shoes are more environmentally friendly than non-vegan shoes, because these, I bought these new, so I know that it would have been better to buy these shoes secondhand if I could have found them. But in general, vegan shoes are thought to have a smaller carbon footprint. So I only buy vegan shoes because I just don't want to support animal cruelty, and leather is not a byproduct of the meat industry. It's a separate thing entirely. Certain cattle are raised just for their leather. I won't go into it in too much detail, but if you haven't seen Earthlings, there's a part of that documentary where they focus on the leather industry, and so I recommend looking into that if you really want to be informed about what happens with leather. I can't support leather at all. I mean, if it's secondhand, I can make an argument for wearing it and using it, but as far as buying new, I can't buy leather anymore. This question has come up frequently, you know, when someone's minimizing their wardrobe or their shoe collection, the stuff they have. They ask me like, well, what about non-vegan shoes? Like if you're new to veganism and you have leather shoes in your collection, what should you do with those? In my opinion, I think it's best just to continue to wear those shoes and wear them out until you can't wear them anymore. There's nothing wrong with using them. You already paid the money for them. You have them. Getting rid of them and buying another pair just doesn't make sense. It's more wasteful. If you do not want to wear leather shoes, you can also donate them. You know, decluttering your shoe collection, you have to go from this mindset of like collecting things just because it's fun or because it's something to do or because, I mean, maybe you do like shoes and you like collecting them for fashion or whatever. If you want to, you know, start your minimalism journey, you can't have a collection of like 50 pairs of shoes. It's not going to work. If you actually look at the shoes you wear day to day, I guarantee you're not cycling through all 50 pairs. You know, what I did when I was going through my shoe collection, I put, you know, all of my shoes in a pile basically. And then I decided, I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely gonna keep this pair, and I think I could keep this pair. And I would just separate them. And so I could see visually, like on the floor, the shoes I was going to get rid of and the shoes I was going to keep. And I recommend doing that for some time just because it'll help you visually be aware of like how much you're going to get rid of and then the shoes you're going to keep. Because if you just keep all of your shoes mixed and just pick out of there, I feel like you're more likely to just revert back to like having all of these shoes around all the time. And so one thing you could do is you could just take all of your shoes and pack them all up in a box and then just take out the ones that you actually need and see how many of those pairs you actually wear. But I do think breaking it down and categorizing them makes it easier. You can have work shoes, all-purpose, a pair of loungy shoes, something for a fancier occasion. I prefer to have shoes that can fit in multiple categories. Like my Docs, I feel like I could dress them up if I wanted to, depending on the outfit. Same with these sandals. I think these would go well with my black dress. And then another thing is that, you know, if you're not traveling around nomadically like I am, you can definitely hold on to more pairs of shoes. Just make sure that every pair in your collection, you know, you actually wear them and you like them. Yeah, it might sound like a daunting task, but it's not that hard once you get started. You know, when you do decide to get rid of a pair of shoes, absolutely get rid of them. Don't let them creep back into your life again. Promise yourself that you won't buy any more shoes and use the shoes until they're completely worn out. You have to change your mindset when it comes to shopping and accumulating things. There's just so many benefits to living this way. I can't imagine going back to that, you know, like the shopping culture where that's just what you do and you accumulate all this stuff for what? And it's not satisfying. It might be for a few seconds and then in a couple of days you want to do it again. You just end up with a house full of stuff, you're not even using them. So how many pairs of shoes do you own currently? Are you looking to downsize your shoe collection? If so, how many shoes would you like to end up with? Post a comment down below. And if you have any tips you'd like to share with other viewers, post that as well. And yeah, let me know what you think about this video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I do new videos every Wednesday. And feel free to connect with me on social media. I post daily on Instagram. I also have a blog. You can find all of those links in the video description down below. But thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a good week.